Steve.
And I'm Cory, and this is Frame Your Neighbor.
So today, what we're going to do, or we'll let you in on a secret, what we already did, was go out and shoot on the north side of Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And our challenge for this one is that we are pushing color film. Specifically, we're pushing Fuji Color 200.
So I've never done anything with pushing or pulling film, and I know you probably haven't either. But the idea behind this is that you actually shoot your film at a different ISO than what it is and set your camera to that, and then it actually gets developed that way. So we're going to send it off and give notation that this is developed in a different process than what that film should be actually developed as.
Yeah, so the way it works is every stop is either double or half. So if we're pushing, so we're actually shooting 200 as if it was 400.
Mm-hmm.
So we're actually underexposing all of our photos. And the reason that we're recording this after we went out is because we actually tried to do this yesterday, but there wasn't enough light out it was a very overcast day, and so we didn't think that was going to be very, very good to shoot. So we opted to try and go out again today, and we didn't know if we were going to do it today, but it actually ended up being a really nice, pretty sunny day. So
yeah, today was bright, sunny, clear, blue skies, a lot of color on the North Shore, Mexican War Streets in Pittsburgh for where we were. So what we ended up doing, though, is we kind of made it up as we went. We were taking different pictures, and then we were using the Canon to do a control shot. So just something that was shot as a normal thing. But we each shot 2 rolls, 36 exposure. Some the same, some a little different.
So it was pretty loose. Yeah, we did do, like you said, we did do some of the same, like our other challenges. But in general, this was more of an experiment. We wanted to see what we can get out of pushing the film. So we did overlap, but we also did a lot of one-offs on our own. And we both shot our Minoltas. And again, like you said, the control was the Canon. So we used the Canon. If we both shot one, obviously we just kind of picked one of our shots to kind of compare it off of. And then if like I did one or he did one, we would do a control shot with that too. So that way we can see like comparatively what it would have turned out as what we got.
So next step for us is we're going to send this off to get developed with the special instructions on what to do for the development. And we'll go from there. So we'll see you guys when we get it back.
Yeah, when we get it back, we'll let you guys know.
Thanks.
Welcome back, everyone. So we took a while to get this video up and running. We had to send the film out to get developed since it is color. And then he was on the road for a while, so we needed to scan it and actually sit down and get everything together. So here we are, and you may have noticed a living room this time. It is about 90 million degrees outside, and so the wood shop is entirely too hot to shoot in. So we are in Cory's living room.
Yeah, it's easy doing your neighbors. But anyway, so for this whole process, again, we're not doing a comparison against one another. It's just more or less, let's see what sort of control shot we can get and what happens when we push that film one stop. The only difference that we really had was that it was my camera versus your camera, which we know there's a little different, not much. And then we were doing the control with another camera.
With another third different, with the third camera.
So slight differences as we go along, but mainly we're just going to take a look and see what the images resulting would be.
So the big thing, we didn't really explain why to push or pull film. If you want, we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of it. If you want to get into the nitty gritty of that, there are plenty of videos on YouTube that explain that. But really it comes down to 2 really basic things. With any film that you push, it's going to change the contrast. So your light and dark areas. And with color, you're going to get a color shift. So those are the 2 big things in a nutshell with pushing film.
Yeah.
Take it away.
All right, so for the first image, it's up on the North Shore at Randyland, and I think you were walking by and you kind of noticed this gargoyle, so we both ended up going for it. In the control versus mine, you know, you do see some of that color shift. You'll see some of the yellows go a little bit more gold. You'll see a little bit of that loss in the shadow area. Of course, I shot mine a little differently. I kept a little bit more of the sunlight. I kept those bugs up, going up that telephone pole, and the air raid shelter sign is shifted, of course. But even then, you see a little bit more of that rust in those signs and just the age of them. Yeah.
Again, and with mine, it's, mine's identical to the control. But again, the yellows, it turns from more of a yellowy to a gold or a mustard. I think mine kind of looks more mustardy in this one. The blues are definitely almost like a darker blue. So this is almost like an aqua blue, I guess. And this is definitely like a darker
shade of blue, and then the line coming across here goes, and especially with the gargoyle too, goes from blue to purple. Definitely a lot more purple hues. And then contrast-wise, like we were talking about, if you look in the arc deep in there behind the gargoyle and the control, the colors stand out pretty bright and they're pretty separate. And again, you can, on the push film, you can tell what colors are there, but the contrast is it's a lot darker the further back you get into there, and so the colors don't quite stand out quite as much in those darker areas.
Yeah, even that ladybug changes too.
Yeah,
all the way down in the bottom. Even though there's some shadow in it, there's still quite a shift in that.
Yeah, and the head kind of blends in a little bit, I think, more because it's in the dark area.
Yeah,
in the push film.
All right. For my second image, you'll see that there was this basically a sky reach, or the sky lift that people would use on construction sites. And it was just this orange with that blue, that complementary color on the color wheel. And you'll see that the control one has a little bit more of a greener tone in the background than what the blue-gray really was. Actually, I think the push film in this version is actually more true to what reality is. It's a little more yellow on the control versus what it really was, I think. So just something different to see that shift in general. Again, same film.
I mean, at that point in the day, it was still pretty bright out. So
yeah,
and with that reflective, the gloss of that, I'm sure it gave it that yellow hue to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was a good shift on that one.
Yeah. All right, and mine, these are actually the red doors to a church that is on the north side. The big things to note, in the top right corner, in the windows, you can definitely notice, again, those dark areas are definitely, they're darker. You don't get quite as much detail. You can still see the lines in the window a little bit, but not quite as much as the control. The handle, the railing here in the control is a little bit kind of blown out, just with like the white too. But on the push, the white and the railing come out really nice. And same with the green. The green kind of blows out a little bit on the control, whereas the push, I think the greenery comes out a little bit nicer. The same thing with the step on the bottom.
Yeah.
It's kind of blown out on the top there, whereas the push is actually pretty balanced. The reds, again, definitely a little bit more saturated. I definitely like the reds in the push better than it's a little deeper in that one. The biggest thing I like about this are the door handles. Definitely, they're definitely noticeably different. Just with like the hues of the brass and how in like the dark areas, how dark the dark areas come out and give you that contrast between like the shine, the gleam where the light's leaning off of it, and then where it's dark.
So before the next image, train break.
Train break again.
You want to do your countdown?
And we're back in 3, 2, 1.
Anyway, for the next picture is a couple of lawn chairs out in Randyland, and you won't see so much of a color shift itself, especially in the background with mine. A lot of this was in shadow, so it wasn't really getting that whole full light that you normally would. You do see it in the two front chairs, the red and the green chairs, of course. You kind of see a little bit in that yellow one in the background, but a lot of that, again, you see just that yellow, the yellows coming in. You see that green switch a little bit more mint, and you see that magenta go a little bit more red, sort of thing. And that's what I was getting off of that.
Yeah.
Even that orange one in the back actually looks orange in the push one than the first one.
Yeah. Mine is also at Randyland. Most of these are, because everything there was so colorful, it just made it easy. The biggest thing is just actually the whole right side of mine. Up where I think there's like a bundle of grapes, like up in the corner there, it looks like. You can definitely tell in the push, it gets a little darker, because it's set back a little bit out of the light. So the contrast does come through a little bit. It's definitely a bit darker, especially you can tell with like the leaves. The leaves in the push are definitely a lot darker than the control. But it turned out nice because that color wheel, which got blown out in the control, is actually really, really well balanced in the push. And you can see all the colors. And there's not too much color shift between the two of these. I think the yellows and the reds, are pretty much very similar. Maybe the blues and greens shifted a little bit, but really the biggest one with this one is the contrast, I think.
I see the color shift right in that doorway or the window or whatever it is.
Oh,
I see
yeah,
the
like-
frame
yeah.
of it in that blue.
Yeah,
But
that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Other than that, most of it is just the contrast is really the biggest.
yeah,
one
your
here.
hanging baskets are.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, this one is probably my favorite image from Randyland. It's just this chicken with the cacti or succulents in its back. It's a planter. But what you really get to see is just that color shift that we keep talking about. The magenta goes to an actual red. The blue greens go to an actual green. You kind of pull in that more warmer tone sort of feel. Even the feathers on that chicken tend to look a little differently too.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of go from a cool gray to, you know, what it actually was in real life. So yeah, I kind of like this one.
Yeah. And I also shot a chicken at Randyland, entirely different.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't actually think I was even going to use this one, but here we are. Because it ended up being one of the better examples of pushing film.
Yeah.
Again, the red is, you know, much more saturated. I think the definition, again, like you said in the feather, like the definition in the dark areas is a lot better. It's a lot harder dark lines in like the tail and everything like that. You can instantly tell very, very easily that the background in the pushed is much darker than the background in the control, where you get this bright yellow in the stand or whatever it is. And you still see that it's yellow, but it definitely does not stand out quite as much. I think there's you can see even the red in the car. I didn't really point that out or notice that before, but
Yeah.
it's definitely very sun bleached here, which still it is, but you get more reds out of it in the pushed.
Well, even whatever that wooden piece is underneath that table,
Yeah.
you kind of pull a little bit more of that darkness with it.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it's definitely noticeably darker in that whole upper left-hand corner.
Yeah. Well, since this is Frame Your Neighbor, and I typically take a picture of you on any excursion that we do, just because that's a thing. This one, actually, though, I did because I wanted to see what it was like on skin tone. I don't really do a whole lot of portraiture. I don't like taking pictures of people. I work retail, so. In this one, though, you see that rust color definitely come out on the telephone pole, and your flannel really pulls that red, that vibrant, and even the shirt, the yellow in that shirt goes to that more gold. But looking at your skin tone too, the leaves in the background, the construction sign in the background, in the pushed film, it's more realistic than it is on the control. I think the control is definitely a little more blue, a little more washed out, where it's not so much in reality.
Yeah, and your greens in the trees are definitely noticeably different too.
Oh yeah. But I mean, that's to me too. That's the advantage of shooting with Fujifilm, is you get some of that cool tone, especially with some aesthetics that you want. In this one, it's almost a little bit more like shooting Kodak, but it was not Kodak.
Yeah. And mine, back at Randyland again. So this is a welcome sign hanging off the pergola. Not too much. I don't think color shift in this one. It's more so the biggest thing that stands out to me in this one is the contrast. So all of the lines in the back of the pergola are much darker. So there's definitely a bigger separation, I think, between the front bar and the back, and as well as the sign. I think the sign stands out better because the background is darker. And then the shadows in the swirls, I think, definitely are a little harder because anywhere that it was dark, it darkened. And anywhere that the light was hitting, the separation between those two areas, I think, definitely stands out a little bit better in the push film.
Honestly, the push one just looks like it's even more saturated. It looks like it should look like. So
yeah, I in general, I like push and film. It was fun. I definitely think that the cool color tones that you get out of it are pretty neat.
So I do go back to Randyland as well, and this is for some flowers in a flower box out in the street. In the pushed version, you can see a little bit more of that green come out. You see the yellow become more of that gold, because that brick wall was actually purple and gold. Even the writing in that flower box, thank you. The blues in the grass, it just wasn't there in reality. And so the golds, the oranges, the flowers themselves, I think they came up a little bit more. You do have a little bit of the shadow loss underneath that box or behind some of the flowers or anything like that. But to me, that doesn't really matter as far as the image.
Yeah.
So
I think, and this one, I think pushing film helped the balance of this one a lot. I definitely think that the push one turned out much nicer. The bush, the shrub in front, the greens are nicer. There's not quite as blown out. The contrast and like between the petals of the flowers, like the dark areas are darker. The lighter areas aren't quite as blown out. And in general, again, this one, color shift's not too drastic. More so with the reds and yellows is what I'm noticing with this one. Is the reds and yellows are the biggest difference, because even the purples aren't that terribly different. And the blues actually aren't even that different in this one either.
No, you only really see that maybe around the bulletin board, like that frame, but
overall. Yeah. And then underneath the bulletin board is obviously, it's darker. So, again, that contrast. And down here on the right too, I just noticed that too.
Yeah.
So those darker areas stand out as darker. There's more of a separation.
Yeah. So this one is another just general North Shore house with a fountain in front of it. We actually both took this picture.
Yeah. My tree bush thing washed out way too much to use it.
Yeah.
All the light on the greens and stuff, it was way too washed out.
I mean, mine's still kind of out there in some spots, but
it's just weird because we were less than like 4 feet away from each other when we took it.
But again, it's mostly a color shift in this one that I'm seeing. A little bit in the shadow. You see it around the globes a little bit, but
again, the reds, the bricks, the doors,
exactly.
The flowers,
even the
flag.
hedges right up front, or the lawn, or however that is, or the topiaries back there. It looks more realistic to the red, to that orange.
Getting the detail in the porch next door.
Oh, I never even noticed that.
You get a lot more detail. I mean, you still get it, but it's darker.
It's not as vibrant, That was kind of, looking at this, so it kind of reminds me of like a film or photograph that you would maybe your grandparents had from 1974 or something like that. That little bit of Technicolor feel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And then I got, again, the pergola at Randyland. I like this. I chose this one, even though I already had a pergola one, because of the greens in the back. How it definitely is. You get a lot darker greens. Like it, almost looks like it's sitting further back, or maybe like the lighting of the day is entirely different. I think with the greens. Again, not too much color shift. I think maybe like the greens are maybe a little mintier. This one doesn't have. I don't think
you see a little bit in the yellow. Especially like along in
I guess in the front,
that warm tone. I think the warm tones are really what's truly affected by it. The blues and the purples, I don't think, even on mine, you don't see a whole lot of color shift in most cases, but what you do see is just that saturation come up.
Yeah, again, I do agree that this is much more saturated than the other one, which I do like. I like this one a lot better, and I think that I like this one compositionally wise because the trees they get pushed back a little bit.
And you did a really good job at keeping the composition the same.
I'm actually pretty impressed with how close I kept the control versus. And I think the aperture might be slightly different on this one too, because it's slightly, you can see it's a little bit blurry. Sure. But I did shoot aperture priority to try and match the aperture between the two.
But even still, that's probably a really good comparison of what you're doing between the two films.
Yeah.
So. All right, for the last one, we're doing these pigs that were on the outside.
We both did them.
Yep.
Different angle.
You see a little bit of color shift in mine. Unfortunately, I'm not, really seeing a whole lot within some of the flowers. I think it was still a little washed out. You do see the color shift with that front piece of trim, that blue going to a little bit more of the purple. You see a little bit more of the shift in the background too. It doesn't show up nearly as green on the brick. It shows up a little bit more of that gold color.
I didn't notice that either.
Yeah. And
it does come a little more,
And I know you pointed it out before too, but just some of the colors on the pigs.
Yeah. Yeah, like in mine, so the biggest is the greens and blues in this one. The door is obviously a little bit more saturated. The blue eyes in mine stand out a little bit more, I think, with the pushed film. I definitely think the detail comes a little bit, I think the detail comes a little bit better just in general.
Well, and you actually see it more as a blue eye versus more of a blue-green eye.
I think even though they are, I think they're the same blue in both, but I think they stand out better even if they are the same color. They stand out better.
Yeah.
I think part of it too is, again, the contrast in the ears. You notice here it's still slightly, you get the green to here.
Oh, the actual highlight of the eye, yeah.
With the contrast from pushing the film, it's dark. I mean, it's not really a whole lot. It's very,
you can see that in her eye too.
Yeah. And then I think that the flowers stand out a little bit better over over the yellow in front of her skirt in the push film.
And even the flowers on her skirt, that highlight. I still like the background. I don't know. I can't remember if that was like a purple paint or something that he had done this texture on there.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the background. It's a little bit more interesting to me.
Yeah. I'm not actually looking, I just noticed this too, is I think the reds stand out better on the hat versus the purple on mine, on the push.
Yeah.
Like you can see the highlights are like a red, but they're definitely more noticeable in the push film. And I like the detail and stuff in his...
Yeah, I didn't even know it was a different color.
His,
Even look at her bow tie in her hair.
Yeah.
You see a little difference too.
Yeah, I think the color difference stands out a little bit better in the pushed on mine as well.
Yeah.
And then again, contrast again, the colors that go up in the sides, you can kind of tell, you can see like the blue, like the purple and red here. You can see it stands out better in obviously in the control. And then it's definitely a lot darker in the push on the left-hand side, where you almost can't make out too much of colors. It just kind of goes to shadow, whereas the control you can kind of see.
Yeah,
you can still kind of see some color in there.
Yeah. All right.
Alright.
Well, so obviously we didn't really go against each other too much on these, and we were just trying to have fun with pushing film. I know we have a couple other projects on deck that I don't want to give too much away for.
Still a secret. Still a secret.
But they will be coming soon, and we'll be playing around with those. But tell us what you think about all this stuff on our comment section down below. Pay attention to our Instagram, at FrameYourNeighbor. We'll be doing some different polls, some different pictures, and things like that. And thanks for watching.
Till next time, guys.